Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me for this week's Resources of the Week video. My name is Sahra and I'm from Mindscape Psychology in Leichhardt in Sydney. So last week I talked a little bit about self-compassion, and self-compassion is pretty much the act or acts of being kind to ourselves, showing ourselves some love and some care and some gentleness in the same way that we would treat somebody that we loved and cared about, or maybe in the same way that we would treat a small child or a baby animal. And that really made me think about this idea of willingness. You know, sometimes I think that a lot of people want to show ourselves this kindness or this self-compassion. We want to be doing some of these acts of self-care, but there might be a little bit of a lack of willingness to do it. And I think sometimes that comes from, the outside world, our expectations and the shoulds that are imposed upon us. And you can go back to one of my earlier vlogs that talks about expectations and shoulds. But sometimes we might just not know how to do it. And sometimes we might be feeling unmotivated or unwilling to give it a go. So part of willingness to really be acting in a way that is self-compassionate is really about thinking about a few questions. And those questions are what I'm going to take you through a little bit later. So where might we be applying this willingness? Where might we maybe need to think about, when am I willing to try something new or try something different? And it really comes down to that comparison that I made in the last vlog about self-compassion, between the differences between self-compassion and selfishness. So the idea that self-compassion is I'm going to be putting my needs above somebody else's wants, whereas selfishness is I'm putting my wants above somebody else's needs. So are we willing to spend some time and allow ourselves to be showing ourselves that kindness and that care and that comfort that we might be craving? So here are some questions that I wanted to ask you guys. The first is, am I willing to act to relieve my own suffering? And that's a big question, isn't it? What am I willing to give up in order to relieve my own suffering? If it is something like comfort or familiarity, we might be used to the kinds of suffering that we might be going through. It is hard to give that up. It is hard to do anything different. But what am I willing to do to relieve my own suffering? And maybe that isn't about what we can do for ourselves. It might be something like, who am I willing to turn to help me relieve my suffering? What am I willing to change? Is there anything that I can change? Is there something else out there that somebody else or something else can help me to change? And if I don't change, what am I willing to put up with? If I am willing to put up with things, how much are they bothering me? How much is it going to bother me to continue to stay? And what am I no longer willing to put up with? Also on that, what am I willing to walk past? It might not be something in our lives or our immediate spheres of control that is something that might be bothering us. It might be something outside of us, in our environments, in our relationships, in our work, in other places in our lives. And we ask ourselves, am I willing to continue to walk past this and ignore this? What am I no longer willing to walk past or ignore? What do I need to stand up to? What do I need to attempt to influence? And when I choose to act, am I willing to accept both the positives and the negatives of my choice? Or is there something getting in the way? Is there something that is stopping me from making a choice, being willing to make a choice, and then stick to that choice? So that's where I'm going to leave you guys today. Lots of questions. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to summarize a lot of these questions, and I'm going to put it up as a corresponding worksheet, which you'll be able to download from either the Facebook page or our website, which is just mindscapepsychology.com.au. And I'll see you guys next week. I hope that this vlog has opened up some thoughts, maybe prompted you to ask yourself some of those questions. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. Take care. Bye.